The alley reeked of rotting Chinese takeout and yesterday's rain. But Jackson didn't care anymore. His fingers clawed deeper into the overflowing dumpster behind the bodega on 14th Street, chasing the glint of a half-eaten sandwich like it was buried treasure. A shadow fell over him, long and authoritative, blocking the sodium glow of the street lamp, and before he could scramble out, a voice sliced through the night like a knife through silk. "Jesus Christ, Jack. Is this what rock bottom looks like for you now?" He froze, heart slamming against his ribs, because that voice, smooth as bourbon, edged with the polished cadence of boardrooms and ballot boxes, belonged to the one man who'd ever made him feel invincible, and the one who'd shattered him into 1,000 jagged pieces. Jackson whipped around, his knee slipping on a slick pizza box, and there he was, Ethan Hale, mayor of New York fucking City, standing in a tailored wool overcoat that probably cost more than Jackson's last 3 months' rent combined. Ethan's face was the same devastating map of high cheekbones and a jaw that could cut glass, but the years had etched fine lines around his eyes, lines from stress, or maybe from the ghosts of decisions that kept him up at night. His dark hair was slicked back, not a strand out of place, and those blue eyes, once soft with midnight confessions in tangled sheets, now burned with a cocktail of pity, anger, and something dangerously close to regret. "Get out of there," Ethan said, extending a gloved hand, his breath fogging in the November chill. Jackson slapped it away, the slap echoing like a gunshot in the narrow space between overflowing bins. "You don't get to play white knight now, Ethan," Jackson spat, hauling himself out and wiping greasy residue on his threadbare jeans. His voice cracked on the edges, raw from disuse and the kind of pride that had nowhere left to hide. The city pulsed around them, honking taxis on the avenue, distant sirens wailing like lost souls. But here, in this forgotten sliver of Hell's Kitchen, it was just the two of them, two ghosts from a love story that had ended in flames. Ethan didn't flinch at the rejection. Instead, he stepped closer, close enough that Jackson could smell the faint cedar cologne that used to linger on his pillows. "I've been watching the news," Ethan murmured, his gaze dropping to the fresh bruise blooming on Jackson's knuckles, a souvenir from a bar fight he couldn't afford to lose. "The whole city's talking about affordable housing initiatives, green spaces in Brownsville, but here you are, my Jack, sifting through garbage like some goddamn Victorian orphan." Jackson laughed, a bitter bark that scraped his throat. "You're Jack? Last I checked, you traded me in for a Senate run and a penthouse view of the Hudson. Remember that? The night you said, 'It's not you, it's the optics.'" The words hung heavy, laced with the venom of 5 years' worth of what-ifs. They'd met in the sticky haze of a Brooklyn dive bar, Jackson fresh out of the Marines with a psych degree gathering dust and a chip on his shoulder the size of Staten Island. Ethan was a rising star in the DA's office, all Ivy League charm and bleeding heart speeches on criminal justice reform. One shared cigarette outside turned into stolen weekends in Ethan's walk-up, bodies mapping each other like uncharted territories. Jackson's calloused hands tracing the curve of Ethan's spine, Ethan's lips whispering promises against sweat-damp skin. It was messy, electric, the kind of love that made the world feel conquerable. But politics is a jealous mistress. Ethan's campaign for city council demanded a relatable family man image, and Jackson, with his tattoos, his sarcasm, his unapologetic queerness, didn't fit the script. The breakup was clinical, a late-night call from Ethan's strategist, followed by Ethan showing up at Jackson's door with a bottle of scotch and eyes that begged forgiveness he couldn't give. "I love you," he'd said, but the words drowned in the subtext. I love ambition more. Jackson had stormed out, enlisted in a security firm upstate for a year, then bounced back to the city on a string of dead-end gigs, bartending, bouncing, anything to keep the lights on. Now, at 32, he was crashing on a buddy's couch in Astoria, dodging eviction notices and the gnawing ache of what could have been. Ethan's jaw tightened, the muscle ticking like a countdown to explosion. You think I don't regret it? Every damn day, Jack. But look at me now, mayor at 40. I could fix this. One call, and you've got a job. A place? A leash, Jackson interrupted, his hazel eyes flashing with the fire that had first drawn Ethan in. He jabbed a finger at Ethan's chest, the wool coat yielding like it was made of lies. You think throwing money at me erases the part where you erased us? I don't need your pity parade, Mr. Mayor. The title tasted like ash on his tongue, a reminder of how far Ethan had climbed while he'd been clawing through the dirt. The alley seemed to shrink, the walls closing in with the weight of unspoken accusations. Ethan grabbed Jackson's wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to send a jolt up his arm, a spark that ignited memories of rougher grips in the dark. This isn't pity. This is me seeing you, finally, after all this time. His voice dropped, husky with the intimacy they'd lost. Jackson's breath hitched. He could feel the heat radiating from Ethan's body, the same magnetic pull that had once made late-night arguments end in fevered reconciliations. For a split second, he leaned in, the ghost of a kiss hovering between them like fog off the East River. But then reality crashed back. The dumpster's stench, the distant wail of a patrol car, the ring of Ethan's phone shattering the moment. Ethan pulled back, fishing the device from his pocket with a curse. Hail! He barked into it, his posture snapping into command mode. The call was from his chief of staff, some crisis at City Hall, protesters clashing over the latest zoning bill. As Ethan listened, his eyes never left Jackson's face, a silent plea etched in the furrow of his brow. Handle it, he said finally, ending the call with a swipe. I have to go. But this us doesn't end here. Meet me tomorrow. The Pierre. Noon. We'll talk. It wasn't a question. It was an order wrapped in nostalgia. Jackson shook his head, stepping back into the shadows. There is no us, Ethan. Not anymore. But as the mayor turned and strode toward the avenue, his silhouette swallowed by the city's glow, Jackson's resolve cracked like thin ice. He sank against the brick wall, the cold seeping through his jacket, and wondered if rock bottom had a trapdoor leading straight back to heartbreak. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of November light that made New York feel like a concrete cage. Jackson woke on Marco's lumpy futon, the apartment a haze of weed smoke and unwashed dishes. Marco, his old Marine buddy, was out cold on the fire escape, nursing a hangover from last night's shift at the strip club. Jackson's head throbbed, not from booze but from the echo of Ethan's voice looping in his dreams. My Jack. He splashed water on his face in the bathroom sink, staring at the mirror's cruel honesty, bags under his eyes like bruises, stubble turning silver at the temples. At 32, he looked 40, worn down by the grind of a city that chewed up dreamers and spat out husks. He shouldn't go. The Pierre was old money incarnate, doormen in crisp uniforms eyeing you like you might filch the silverware. But curiosity or masochism won out. He borrowed Marco's cleanest flannel, tucked in his scuffed boots, and hopped the 7 train into Manhattan, the rattle of the rails mirroring the churn in his gut. Central Park loomed as he emerged, skeletal trees clawing at the sky, joggers pounding pavement like they were outrunning their own regrets. The Pierre's lobby was a time warp, crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs muffling the ghosts of debutante balls. Jackson felt like an intruder, his reflection in the gilded mirrors screaming imposter. Ethan was waiting in a private suite overlooking Fifth Avenue, the table set with coffee and croissants that smelled like privilege. He rose when Jackson entered, shedding his suit jacket to reveal a crisp white shirt rolled to the elbows. Casual Ethan, the one who'd once cooked Jackson huevos rancheros at 2 a.m. after a Mets game. "You came," Ethan said, relief softening his features. No aides, no security, just them. The door clicked shut behind Jackson like a vault sealing secrets. "Yeah, well, curiosity killed the cat," Jackson muttered, dropping into a chair. The coffee was black and scalding, just how he liked it, Ethan's small victory. They danced around small talk, the weather, shitty. The Yankees' playoff choke, predictable. The mayor's latest win on rent control, genuine. Jackson admitted grudgingly. But the air thickened with the unsaid, until Ethan set down his cup with a porcelain clink. "I saw you in that alley, and it hit me I've been blind. Chasing polls and photo ops while you..." He trailed off, rubbing his temple. "Tell me everything." "Since I left." Jackson's laugh was hollow. "Left? You mean ghosted me for a focus group that said, 'Gay ex-Marine polled poorly in Queens'?" The words spilled out then. "A dam breaking. The security gig that tanked when the client OD'd. The bartending hustle derailed by a union bust. The couch-surfing spiral after his landlord hiked the rent 30%. I enlisted to escape my deadbeat dad in Scranton. Came back thinking I could build something. With you. But you bailed. And now I'm just another statistic in your homelessness task force presser." Ethan's face crumpled, the mayor's mask slipping to reveal the man who'd once cried during Brokeback Mountain because it felt too close to home. "I was scared, Jack. My dad, old-school Irish cop, disowned my uncle for coming out in the 80s. I thought if I played it straight, I could change things from the inside. Fix the system that chews up guys like you." He reached across the table, hesitating before covering Jackson's hand with his own. The touch was electric, a live wire to buried desires. Jackson didn't pull away. Instead, he traced the vein on Ethan's wrist with his thumb, a silent question. The conversation shifted, hours bleeding into confessions. Ethan admitted the loneliness of the mayoralty. Nights in Gracie Mansion staring at the ceiling, surrounded by staff but utterly alone. "I dated a woman for 6 months. Press ate it up. But it was a lie, Jack. Every kiss tasted like ash." Jackson shared his own ghosts. The PTSD flares that made crowds feel like IEDs. The hookups in dive bar bathrooms that left him emptier than before. "You're the only one who ever saw past the armor," he whispered, voice rough. By afternoon, the suite felt like a cocoon, sunlight slanting through heavy drapes. Ethan poured scotch from a decanter for old times, and they clinked glasses, the amber liquid burning sweet. "What if we tried again?" Ethan asked, his blue eyes vulnerable, stripped bare. Jackson's heart stuttered. He leaned in, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling. The kiss started tentative, lips brushing like a question, then deepened into hunger, hands fisting shirts, tongues rediscovering familiar paths. It was messy, desperate, the kind of reclaiming that bruised and healed in equal measure. But as they broke apart, panting, Jackson's phone buzzed. A text from Marco. "Dude, check the news. Your boy's in hot water." He glanced at Ethan's screen lighting up simultaneously, a flurry of alerts. The headline screamed betrayal before Jackson even clicked. Mayor Hale's secret gay past exposed. Ex-lover claims abandonment for political gain. Photos splashed across the tabloids. Blurry shots of them in the alley last night. Ethan's hand extended. Jackson's face twisted in fury. Someone, a paparazzo, staffer, had sold them out. Ethan's color drained. This is sabotage. My opponent's team, they've been digging. Panic edged his voice, the politician resurfacing. Jackson felt the old wound rip open, betrayal's bitter tang flooding his mouth. Digging? Like I was digging in that trash? Funny how history rhymes. He stood, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. You said US, but this is just another scandal to spin. Jack, wait. Ethan lunged, grabbing his arm, but Jackson shrugged him off, the fire in his eyes doused to embers. Fix your mess, Mayor. Leave me out of it. He stormed into the elevator, the descent mirroring his freefall, 32 floors of plummeting hope. Back on the street, the city assaulted him. Vendors hawking chestnuts, tourists snapping selfies by the plaza, oblivious to the man unraveling at their feet. His phone exploded with notifications, voicemails from reporters, texts from Marco. Holy shit, bro, you're famous. Even a blocked number that was probably Ethan's. He wandered aimlessly, legs carrying him to the High Line, elevated tracks turned park. A ribbon of green snaking through Chelsea's galleries and lofts. It was one of their spots, back when love felt infinite. Picnics with cheap wine, Ethan's head in his lap as freighters horned on the Hudson. Now, it mocked him, lovers hand in hand under the autumn leaves while he sat on a bench, scrolling the feeds. The stories twisted their history into clickbait, from lover to loser, Mayor's ex-hit skids. A grainy photo from their college days. Wait, no. Ethan's early campaign showed Jackson in fatigues, labeled troubled vet turned tramp. Rage boiled over. He hurled his phone into the weeds below the railing, the crack of plastic satisfying for a heartbeat. But then the tears came, hot and unbidden, blurring the skyline. Why did it still hurt this much? Ethan had chosen power over them once. This was just the encore. Yet beneath the anger simmered the ache. The memory of Ethan's laugh against his neck. The way he'd murmur, "You're my anchor," after brutal council votes. Jackson had believed it, built his fractured world around it. Dusk fell, the High Line's lights flickering on like hesitant stars. Footsteps approached, hesitant, familiar. Jack, Ethan's voice, stripped of authority, raw as an open wound. He looked wrecked. Tie askew, coat slung over one arm, a 5 o'clock shadow creeping in. I shut it down. Press conference in an hour, full disclosure. No spin. I'm coming out. For real this time. Jackson looked up, wiping his face with his sleeve. And me? Collateral in your redemption arc. Ethan's knees hit the gravel as he dropped beside him, close but not touching. No. You're the point. I lost you once to fear. Not again. He pulled a crumpled envelope from his pocket. Resignation letter, dated today. If it costs the job, costs it. But I won't lose you. The words hung, a lifeline or a noose. Jackson searched those blue eyes, seeing the boy who'd marched in the first Pride after Doma. The man who'd whispered I do in a sham wedding chapel upstate just to feel it once. You mean it? He asked, voice barely above the wind rustling the ginkgos. Every word. Ethan closed the gap, their kiss salt-tinged with tears, slow and deliberate, a vow etched in the gathering dark. Around them, the city thrummed on, indifferent to mayors or Marines, but in that moment, on a forgotten stretch of rail, two men reclaimed a piece of themselves. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, no parades, no policy fixes overnight, but it was theirs, humanistic in its imperfection. Love as the quiet rebellion against a world that demanded perfection. As the press conference loomed, Ethan stood, offering his hand. Jackson took it, fingers lacing tight. Together, Ethan asked. Always, Jackson replied, and for the first time in years, he believed it. The press room at City Hall buzzed like a hive on the verge of swarming, reporters jockeying for the front row under the glare of Klieg lights that turned sweat into shine. Ethan Hale, mayor of the free world, or at least its most neurotic metropolis, adjusted his tie in the green room mirror, the knot suddenly feeling like a hangman's noose. Beside him, Jackson leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his chest, the borrowed button-down from Ethan's closet straining at the shoulders. It smelled like him, cedar and starch, a scent that grounded Ethan amid the chaos, even as his chief of staff, Lena, paced like a panther in heels. This is suicide, Ethan, Lena hissed, waving her tablet like a talisman. Polls are tanking, evangelical donors pulling out, the Post already running Hale's homosexual hypocrisy. You out yourself now. And the 24 Senate bid is DOA. Her eyes flicked to Jackson, praising, not unkind but calculating, the X, the wild card, the face that could humanize or torpedo the whole thing. Ethan met her gaze in the reflection, his jaw set. Then it's DOA. Write the statement, I'm gay. Have been since I knew what the word meant. And the man beside me? He's the reason I fight for this city every damn day. Lena exhaled sharply, but there was a ghost of a smile, respect, maybe, for the balls it took. She'd been with Ethan since his council days, the one who'd whispered lean into the vulnerability during his first teary opioid town hall. Now, she nodded, tapping notes into her device. Fine. But Jackson, you're live on every feed from here to LA. Say something real, or it'll play like a setup. Jackson pushed off the wall, his boots scuffing the industrial carpet. Real? Lady, I've been dumpster diving for authenticity. This, he gestured between them, the air thick with the weight of 5 lost years. This is the rawest I've felt since he left me holding the bag. Ethan turned, cupping Jackson's face in both hands, thumbs brushing the stubble that rasped like sandpaper on silk. You don't have to do this. Walk out now. I won't blame you. But Jackson's hazel eyes held steady, flecked with gold in the fluorescent hum. And miss watching you burn it all down? Nah. Besides, someone's got to keep you from lawyering your way out of a confession. The kiss was quick, fierce, a solder against fraying nerves before Lena cleared her throat. 2 minutes. Let's make history. Boys. The podium loomed like a guillotine under the seals of the 5 boroughs, microphones bristling like porcupine quills. Ethan stepped up first, the room falling to a hush broken only by the whir of cameras. He gripped the edges, knuckles whitening, and scanned the sea of faces. Jaded beat reporters, fresh-faced bloggers, a smattering of activists with rainbow pins glinting like defiant stars. New York, he began, voice steady as the Brooklyn Bridge, is a city of reinvention, of second chances. Tonight, I'm asking for one. He laid it bare then. No cards, no spin. The kid from Queens who had crushes on the baseball team behind brass knuckles and bravado. The law student who fell for a Marine with eyes like storm clouds and a laugh that cracked open his armored heart. The politician who chose silence over love, trading authenticity for applause. I betrayed the man I loved, Ethan said, his gaze finding Jackson in the wings, because I was afraid of losing everything else. But losing him, that was the real cost. Jackson Reed isn't just my past, he's my North Star. And today, I stand here not as your mayor, but as a gay man owning his truth. The room erupted, gasps, applause, a lone shout of traitor from the back. But Ethan pressed on, unveiling policies he'd buried in binders. Expanded LGBTQ plus youth shelters in the Bronx, anti-discrimination clauses for city contractors, a task force on veteran mental health modeled after Jackson's own battles. This isn't a pivot, he concluded, voice cracking just once. It's a promise. To him. To you. To the city we both call home. Then he stepped aside, gesturing Jackson forward. The ex-Marine moved like he was breaching a hostile zone. Shoulders squared, chin up, but his hand trembled on the podium. I'm no speechwriter, Jackson started, the mic picking up his gravelly drawl, pure upstate Pennsylvania edged with Brooklyn bite. Hell, half the time I can't even keep a job. But Ethan's wrong about one thing. I'm not his North Star. He's mine. We met in a bar that reeked of stale beer and possibility, and for a minute, we thought we could outrun the world. He paused, swallowing hard, the room leaning in. Turns out, the world catches up. Politics, pride, the bullshit we tell ourselves to stay safe. But love, real love, it digs through the trash to find you anyway. Laughter rippled, warm and unexpected, cutting the tension like sunlight through smog. Jackson leaned into it, his eyes locking on Ethan's. So yeah, Mr. Mayor, we're a mess. But messes make the best stories. And New York's nothing if not a love letter to the broken. He stepped back to cheers, a few whistles, even a wolf call that made him flip the bird with a grin. As they exited stage left, arms brushing in the corridors dim, Ethan pulled him into a shadowed alcove. You were magnificent, he murmured, lips grazing Jackson's ear. The kiss that followed was deeper, unhurried, tasting of adrenaline and absolution, a seal on the chaos they'd unleashed. But reinvention's price tag arrives COD. By midnight, Ethan's phone was a war zone. Death threats from bigots in the comments sections, endorsements evaporating like morning mist, his own mother leaving a voicemail that was equal parts prayer and plea. They holed up in Gracie Mansion, the mayoral residence, a federal-style fortress on the Upper East Side, its public rooms echoing with the ghosts of LaGuardia's past. Jackson paced the library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves mocking his high school dropout vibe, while Ethan fielded calls in the study. The comptroller's calling for a no-confidence vote, Ethan reported later, collapsing onto a leather Chesterfield with a scotch in hand. And my sister's flying in from Boston, says it's time for an intervention. Jackson snorted, sinking beside him, their thighs pressing in silent solidarity. Intervention? For coming out or for shacking up with the help. The joke fell flat, the weight of it all pressing down. Ethan set his glass aside, turning to face him fully. For thinking I could have it all. You, the job, the legacy. His fingers traced Jackson's jaw, mapping the scar from a Humvee rollover in Kandahar. But last night in that alley, seeing you like that, it was a wake-up call. Louder than any pole, Jackson captured his hand, pressing it to his chest where his heart thudded erratically. And what if I drag you down? I'm no trophy spouse, Ethan. I've got baggage, therapy bills, bar tabs, a rap sheet from that protest in 18. Ethan's laugh was soft, disbelieving. Baggage? You're the only one who's ever made me feel light. Remember Montauk? That weekend after the election, when we drove out and just existed. No speeches, no strategists. Just us, the waves, and that shitty motel with the heart-shaped tub. The memory hit like a rogue wave. Salt air tangling their hair, bodies slick under a lukewarm shower. Ethan's vows whispered against collarbones as thunder rolled offshore. Jackson's throat tightened. I remember. Thought it was the start of forever. Ethan's eyes darkened, regret pooling like ink. It was. I just got lost on the way. He leaned in, the kiss starting as comfort but igniting into something primal. Hands roaming under shirts, breaths hitching as buttons gave way. They tumbled to the rug, the fire crackling in the hearth casting shadows that danced like lovers on the walls. It was slow at first, reverent. Ethan mapping every inch of Jackson's skin with lips and tongue, erasing the years with worshipful touches. Jackson arched beneath him, fingers threading through dark hair, gasps turning to moans that echoed off the crown molding. But as release crested, hot and shattering, reality intruded, a sharp rap at the door. Mr. Mayor, protesters at the gate. Anti-LGBTQ groups, NYPD's on it. But Lena's voice, clipped and urgent. Ethan groaned, burying his face in Jackson's neck. Let M come. Tonight, I'm off duty. Jackson chuckled, chest rumbling. Off duty? Babe, you're the mayor. Duty's your middle name. But he held tighter, their limbs entwined like roots seeking soil, a fragile bastion against the storm. Dawn brought no reprieve. The headlines had metastasized. Hale's homo heartbreak. X's trash tail tanks term. Talk radio vilified Ethan as a predator. Progressives decried him as a closeted sellout. Jackson woke to Ethan on the balcony, coffee cooling untouched, staring at the East River where barges lumbered like weary elephants. They're calling for my resignation, Ethan said quietly, wind tousling his hair. And part of me wonders if they're right. Jackson joined him, slipping an arm around his waist, chin on shoulder. Bullshit. You think quitting now fixes anything? Nah. You fight from the inside, like you always said. Ethan's hand covered his, squeezing. With you? Yeah. But it's gonna get uglier. Death threats, doxing. My details already beefed up. Jackson nodded, the Marine in him rising. Good. 'Cause I'm not losing you to some keyboard cowboy in Staten Island. The day devolved into a siege. Strategy sessions in the war room, where Lena mapped attack vectors on a whiteboard Oppo research from Ethan's challenger. A slimy councilman named Ruiz with ties to real estate barons. He's leaking the dirt, she confirmed, circling a timeline. Your breakup, Jackson's service record, twisting the PTSD into unstable. We counter with authenticity. Joint op-ed in the Times. You two at a Pride event next month. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Pride? In November. Make it a vigil, Ethan suggested, the spark returning. For the kids still hiding. Tie it to the shelter funding. But authenticity has teeth. That afternoon, as they walked the mansion's gardens, manicured hedges clipped like topiaries of propriety, a courier delivered a manila envelope, no return address. Ethan slid it open, face-paling photos, high-res, time-stamped. Them, in the suite at the Pierre kissing, hands under clothes, the lens capturing what should have been sacred. Ruiz, Ethan growled, crumpling the glossies. Blackmail. He wants me to drop out. Jackson's blood ran cold, then hot. Over my dead body, he snatched the photos, ripping them to confetti that fluttered like ash in the wind. Publish him. Call his bluff. Ethan's laugh was wry. Porn for the press? Classy. But his eyes gleamed with reckless fire, the same that had lit their first night. Bodies colliding in a stranger's bed. Or we leak it ourselves. Own the narrative. By evening, the decision crystallized over takeout lo mein in the kitchen, domestication's small rebellion. We fight dirty, Ethan declared, chopsticks poised like weapons. Hit Ruiz where it hurts, his donors. I've got files on their tax dodges. Jackson grinned, predatory. And I've got buddies in low places, bouncers, cabbies, the kind who hear whispers in alleys. It was partnership reborn, not as lovers in a bubble but warriors in the trenches, their bond forged in the crucible of exposure. Yet doubt gnawed. Late that night, as Ethan slept, fitful, murmuring policy points in dreams, Jackson slipped from bed, padding to the study. He Googled himself on the mansion's laptop, masochistic curiosity winning. Forums lit with vitriol, fagvet, gold digger, memes of him dumpster diving photoshopped with Ethan's face. One thread gutted him. Hale's just using the queer card for sympathy. Dump the trash, Ethan. Tears pricked, hot and humiliating. Was this love, or just another layer of his ruin? Footsteps, Ethan, silhouetted in the doorway, concern etching his features. Can't sleep, he crossed, kneeling by the chair, pulling Jackson into an embrace that smelled of home. It's noise, Jack. White noise. You're not trash, you're treasure. Jackson clung, vulnerability cracking open. What if I'm the leak that sinks you? Ethan's response was a kiss to his temple. Fierce. Then we sink together. Happily, the counteroffensive launched at dawn, a blitzkrieg of leaks and op-eds that turned City Hall into a coliseum. Ethan's team, Lena at the helm, a phalanx of millennial aides manning socials, fired salvos. Ruiz's donor list exposed in a Times investigative piece, ties to slumlords who jacked rents in Bed-Stuy by 40%. Jackson, playing the unlikely general, coordinated from the shadows, tipping off a journalist pal from his bartending days about Ruiz's rumored affair with a married intern, the story breaking on Gothamist by noon. Amateur hour, Jackson quipped over burner phones, his security clearance from the Corps coming in handy for tracing IP trails on the blackmail pics. But war's fog blindsides you. Mid-morning, as Ethan prepped for a budget hearing, line items for queer youth programs scribbled in margins. A brick shattered the limo window en route to Chambers. Shards glittered like malice on the leather seats. The driver swerved, NYPD sirens converging like blue Avengers. Ethan, unscathed but shaken, clutched Jackson's knee in the follow car. "This is on me," he muttered, knuckles white. Stirring the pot, Jackson's grip tightened, steady as rebar. "Nah. It's on the cowards who throw rocks instead of votes." "Keep driving." The hearing devolved into spectacle. Ruiz, smug in his pinstripe armor, lobbing barbs from the dais. "Mr. Mayor, while you're chasing personal dramas, our streets bleed, crime up 12% in Harlem." Ethan rose, composure ablaid. "Crime's up because your backers gutted community policing for tax breaks. And my drama? It's called integrity. Something your campaign's allergic to." The chamber gasped. Jackson watched from the gallery, heart swelling with a pride fiercer than any battlefield rush. But as Ethan cited stats, homeless vet rates, conversion therapy bans, Ruiz's eyes flicked to him, venomous, a silent vow of escalation. Escalation came swift. That evening, a deepfake video surfaced on fringe sites. Jackson, fabricated, ranting slurs in a dive bar, time-stamped to last week's alley meet. It spread like digital syphilis, Fox News picking it up as evidence of Hale's unstable paramour. Jackson's phone rang off the hook. Marco, furious. "Those bastards deep-faked my face." His therapist canceling sessions, for your safety. Even his estranged sister from Scranton texting saw the news. "You okay?" Ethan raged in the mansion's media room, pacing as texts debunked the AI fingerprints. "It's electioneering terrorism," he snarled, slamming a fist on the console. Ruiz's PAC funneled cash to the firm behind it. Jackson, nursing a beer on the couch, felt the weight settle like lead. "Pull me out, Ethan. Let me fade, you keep the high ground." Ethan's halt was abrupt, eyes blazing. "Fade? Like hell. You're in this because of me, with me." He straddled Jackson's lap, hands framing his face, the intensity a mirror to their first fight, bodies colliding in anger-fueled makeup sex. "We're endgame, Jack. Not extras." The kiss was bruising, teeth-nipping lips, a declaration amid the storm. Clothes shed in a frenzy, they claimed the room, Ethan on his knees, worshipping with a devotion that unraveled Jackson thread by thread, gasps echoing off oak panels. It was catharsis, raw and redemptive, bodies sinking like pistons in overdrive. Post-climax haze shattered with a knock. Ethan's mother, Evelyn Hale, unannounced, her rosary beads clicking like judgment. She was a force, silver hair in a severe bob, eyes the same piercing blue as her son's, softened by immigrant grit from County Kerry. "Ethan Michael Hale, what in God's name?" She trailed off, spotting Jackson mid-zip, face flushing rosacea red. Ethan bolted up, shirtless and sheepish. "Ma Evelyn, this is Jackson." "Jackson, my mother." Awkward handshakes ensued, Evelyn's grip ironclad, her gaze appraising Jackson like faulty plumbing. Over tea in the solarium, porcelain cups clinking under crystal prisms, Evelyn unloaded. "I flew in because the church ladies are praying for your soul, boyo. And now this circus." Her brogue thickened with emotion, a relic of fairies from Belfast. Ethan bristled. "Ma, it's not. Hush. I've known since you were 16, stealing glances at the altar boys." She turned to Jackson, eyes misting. "He was always the dreamer. wanted to fix the world, like his duh before the bottle took him. But love, that's the real fixer. Jackson, stunned, murmured thanks. Evelyn patted his hand. You're a Reed? Pennsylvania Dutch. Scranton's finest, he quipped. She chuckled, thawing. Tough stock. Good. He'll need it. Her blessing lingered like incense as she departed, but the city's underbelly churned. Night fell with a vengeance. Ruiz's rally in Flushing, crowds chanting Hail must go, effigies burning with queer slurs scrawled in Sharpie. Ethan watched the feed, gut twisting. They're afraid, he said, voice low. Of us. Of change. Jackson pulled him close on the four-poster bed, linens crisp as fresh starts. Fear's a liar. We've faced worse, you in courtrooms, me in deserts. Their lovemaking was tender that night, exploratory, fingers tracing tattoos, whispers weaving futures, adoptions, maybe, or a farm upstate when the term ended. Sleep came fitful, dreams haunted by bricks and deepfakes. Climax crested the next dawn, unbidden. Jackson woke to Ethan gone. A note. Emergency briefing. Don't wait up. Paranoia prickled. He dressed, slipping past dozing detail to the garage. The mayor's SUV idled curbside. Ruiz's face on the passenger tablet, hollow call. Urgent. Jackson froze in shadows, eavesdropping like a ghost. Hail. Truce. Ruiz schmoozed. Oily. Drop the donor digs. I bury the pics. We both win 24. Ethan's reply was ice. Win? By silencing love? No deal. But Ruiz pressed. Your boy's a liability, trash diver. PTSD poster child. One call to VA records. The threat hung. Then Ethan's voice. Steel-edged. Touch him, and I unleash everything. Your intern, the offshore accounts, buried 6 feet under by sundown. Jackson's blood roared. Betrayal? No. Defense. But the seed of doubt sprouted. Was he anchor or anchorite? Dragging Ethan into depths? He confronted in the kitchen. Dawn light gilding the marble. Heard you on the phone. Using me as ammo? Ethan startled. Coffee spilling. Jack, eavesdropping? It's strategy. Strategy? Or sacrifice? Jackson's voice rose, cracking. I'm not your prop. Ethan advanced, desperate. You're my everything. Ruiz is cornered, he'll crack. Fists clenched. Words flew. Old wounds reopened. The breakup, the silence, the alley's humiliation. You always choose the game over me, Jackson roared, shoving past. He fled to the streets. Subway to Astoria. Marco's door a reluctant haven. Dude, you're viral. Good viral. Marco greeted, passing a joint. But solitude amplified the ache. Jackson scrolled X, seeing Ethan's tweet. Love isn't a liability. It's liberty. Own your truth tagged at Jackson Reed NYC. Tears blurred the screen. Reconciliation or ruse. Hours ticked. Evening brought Ethan, rain-soaked, pounding the frame. Let me in. Damn it. Marco vanished tactfully. Jackson yanked the door, fury melting to fear. You could have ended it. Saved your ass. Ethan dripped on the linoleum, eyes wild. Without you, I'd be half a man. He dropped to knees, not in supplication but raw honesty, pulling Jackson down with him. I choose you. Every time. The kiss was saltwater and storm, bodies crashing to the futon in a tangle of need. Urgent, unforgiving, each thrust a rebuttal to doubt. Climax shattered them, rebuilt in afterglow whispers, "Marry me." Not for show for us. Jackson's yes was a breath, a beginning. The proposal hung in the air like confetti after a parade, fragile and festive, but New York's gales threatened to scatter it. Jackson woke tangled in Ethan's arms on Marco's futon, the apartment's chaos, pizza boxes as end tables, a fern named Sergeant Stubby wilting in the corner, a stark foil to Gracie's grandeur. Ethan stirred, lips brushing Jackson's shoulder blade. Morning, fiancé. The word tasted foreign, sweet as stolen candy, but Jackson's gut twisted. Fiancé? We dodging pitchforks first. Or straight to the altar? Ethan's chuckle rumbled, vibrating against his back. Both. Lena's drafting the announcement. Discreet, city clerk tomorrow. Discreet proved illusory. By brunch, greasy spoons in Astoria, eggs over easy and home fries crisp, the paps swarmed like locusts, lenses leering through diner windows. Hail, read, ring selfie, flashbulbs popped. Ethan shielded Jackson with an arm, guiding him to the booth's depths. No comment, except this, love wins. The quip trended by coffee's end. Hail read wedding spiking with heart emojis and hate scrolls in equal measure. Jackson shoveled hash browns, appetite fleeing. This your idea of low-key? Ethan winked, stealing a fry. Welcome to my world, Marine. Adapt and overcome. The clerk's office was a DMV purgatory, fluorescence buzzing. Couples in off-rack suits exchanging vows amid the din of expired tags. No tuxes, no tuxes, just them in jeans and hoodies, rings plain gold bands from a midtown pawn, Ethan's impulse by engraved anchor and storm. The officiant, a harried woman with a rainbow lanyard, droned the legals, in sickness and health, for richer or poorer. Jackson's vows improvised. I promise to dig through more than trash with you, for you. To fight the good fights, even when they bruise. Ethan's voice thick. I vow to choose us. Every ballot, every bedroom. You're my reform, Jack. Rings exchanged. Kiss sealed, chaste, electric. A smattering of applause from strangers. One heckle drowned in cheers. News broke mid-ceremony. Livestream hijacked by a clerk's kid with a TikTok addiction. NYC mayor weds gay ex in shotgun city hall hack. The feed went nuclear. Allies toasting virtual champagne. Foes foaming. Pat Robertson's network decrying Sodom's sacrament. Ruiz, cornered rat, conceded the race by sundown. Scandal scorched. Intern payout exposed. Donors fleeing like rats from a blaze. Ethan's approval ticked up. Irony's gift. Authenticity polling better than artifice. But victory's vine bears thorns. Evelyn hosted the reception. Her Queen's row house. Lace curtains and potato knishes. A queer St. Patrick's mashup with rainbow bunting. Family converged. Ethan's sister, Moira, toasting with Guinness, to the brother who finally manned up. Jackson's sis, Tara, hugging fierce. Proud of you, Jackie. Dad would have been, too. Booze or no. Marco emceed, butchering at last on karaoke, but the undercurrent hummed. Ethan's uncle, the disowned one, cornering Jackson in the kitchen. Heard the stories, your service, the streets. Don't let him polish you into a prop. Jackson bristled, suds from dishwater dripping. I'm no prop. I'm the grit in his oyster. Night waned. They escaped to a brownstone in Harlem, Ethan's quiet purchase, a fixer-upper with exposed brick and a stoop for people watching. No staff, no secrets, just them, paint cans and possibility. Unpacking boxes, unearthed relics. Ethan's dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room. Jackson's discharge papers creased from rereads. Remember our first fight? Ethan asked, cross-legged on the floor amid bubble wrap. You threw my campaign mug, called it a fascist coffee cozy. Jackson laughed, pulling him close. And you kissed me mid-rant. Best deflection ever. The lovemaking unfolded slow, exploratory, candlelight flickering on sweat-slick skin, bodies relearning rhythms lost to time. Ethan's hands, once hesitant, now bold, tracing the tattoo over Jackson's heart, a compass rose inked post-deployment. Points true north, Ethan murmured, lips following ink. Jackson gasped, arching, always to you. Months blurred into a mosaic. Ethan's term winding down, policies cemented, shelters funded, vets crisis lines staffed with queer counselors. Jackson found footing. Adjunct teaching at BMCC, Psych 101 for night owls. His alley stories anonymized into lectures on resilience. Protests ebbed, but scars lingered. Therapy tandem, unpacking the breakup's debris. Ethan's shame internalized from catechism. Jackson's abandonment echoing his father's mill-closing flight. We were kids playing house in a hurricane, Jackson reflected one therapy night. Rain lashing windows. Ethan nodded, hand in his. But now, we're the storm. Climax revisited in spring. Uninvited, a gala at the Met. Black tie fundraiser for LGBTQ plus arts. Chandeliers dripping like frozen champagne. Ethan, in bespoke tux. Schmoozed donors. Jackson, uncomfortable in cummerbund, nursed a scotch by the Egyptian wing. A ghost approached. Brandon, Ethan's beard from the sham dates, now a producer with a Netflix doc on closet cases. Heard you two tied the knot. Congrats or condolences? Brandon's smile was shark, eyes raking Jackson. Heard about the deepfakes. Rough. Ethan's always had a type. Broken boys he can fix. Venom-laced honey. Jackson's fist clenched. Marine reflexes itching. Before he swung, Ethan materialized, arm slipping possessive around Jackson's waist. Brandon. Still peddling pity porn. The air crackled. Brandon smirked. Just truth, Ethan. You ditched me for optics, now this? Slumming it for sympathy votes. Ethan's laugh was arctic. Slumming? Jackson's the classiest soul in this tomb of vanities. You? A footnote. He steered Jackson away, but the seed sprouted doubts perennial. In the coat room, Jackson unloaded. Was I a rebound? Your redemption prop. Ethan's face fractured. God, no. You're the plot twist I didn't deserve. The kiss was desperate. Against fur-lined lockers. A reclamation amid mothballs. Resolution bloomed in summer's swelter. A weekend at Montauk callback to beginnings. They rented the same motel. Heart tub chipped but functional. Waves crashing like applause. Over clam chowder at a roadside shack. Ethan slid a folder across. Adoption prelims. A boy from the Bronx shelter. 12. With Jackson's hazel eyes and a rap sheet of foster fails. Our start, Ethan said. Vulnerable. If you're in. Jackson's yes was thunder. Tears salting the sea air. The wedding's echo rippled. A city softened. Pride 26 a triumph. Floats with mayoral floats. Jackson emceeing from a vintage fire truck. But humanism's core pulsed quieter. Tuesday nights at the shelter. Ethan in rolled sleeves serving soup. Jackson leading group on owning your armor. Betrayal scar faded to silver. A reminder not of fracture but fusion. Years on. In their Harlem haven. Now with a kid's laughter echoing. A dog named Allie shedding on rugs. They'd reflect on the alley that rekindled them. Caught digging. Jackson tease. Ethan's head on his chest. Best bust of my life. And in the hush of starlit stoops. Love proved not conquest. But quiet constancy, a American epic. Flawed and fierce. Where two men, trash to treasure, built a world worth the fight.